The signal from New Cascadia should have been boring. A routine check-in, a calm voice, a weather note, maybe a joke about dust storms. Instead, Earth's deep space station caught a thin scream of static, like a knife dragged across metal, and every human on duty froze as the first broken frame appeared. The camera showed a corridor lit by red emergency strips. Smoke drifted in slow waves. Someone had smeared blood on the wall with a shaking hand, leaving a trail that curved out of view. The audio was worse than the image, full of pounding and distant alarms that kept rising and falling like lungs that could not breathe. A young comms tech on the station leaned closer, lips parted, eyes wide. The feed stuttered, then sharpened for half a second. A human face flashed into view, pale and slick with sweat, one eye swollen shut. He tried to speak, but his mouth filled with dust, and he coughed until the microphone cracked. Behind him, something heavy hit a door again and again. The impact was slow, patient, and certain. The man's fingers clutched the camera as if it was the only thing in the universe that could still hold him. He whispered, "They're inside," like the words could keep them out. The station's commander ordered the channel locked, but it was too late. The system auto-routed distress to civilian relays. 500,000 receivers across Earth caught a few seconds of the same horror, and then the feed cut to black. Silence followed, thick and wrong, like a room after a gunshot. Earth tried to call back. Again and again. No answer. No. New Cascadia's orbiting traffic beacons blinked once, then died. Cargo ships approaching the colony turned away, their captains suddenly afraid of what might be waiting in the dark. In the Council's public lanes, alien commentators laughed and called it human drama. In an office of polished glass in Geneva, diplomats stared at the empty screen and forced their breathing to stay normal. They spoke in careful words about protocols and investigations, like language could build a shield. They told themselves it was a raid, a glitch, a communications accident. Anything but the truth. The truth arrived in pieces. A survey probe, unmanned and dumb, returned on emergency thrusters. Its hull burned and pitted like it had flown through a storm of knives. But it carried no voice, no survivor. Only raw footage stored in a sealed core, and when the engineers opened it, the room went cold. New Cascadia's main plaza was a crater. Camera drifted over shattered shelters and broken trees turned to ash. Bodies lay in lines that made no sense until the mind accepted the pattern. People had been pulled from cover and arranged like warnings. The probe floated lower, and the lens caught a child's small hand still holding a toy. A senior analyst played the clip without blinking. Round him, others looked away and failed. One woman pressed her nails into her palm until blood came, as if pain could anchor her to the present. The probe's audio picked up wind passing through snapped metal, a lonely sound that seemed to ask why no one had come sooner. In the hospital district, the buildings were open like peeled fruit. The probe glided through a corridor where beds were still made, sheets still tucked, but the walls were black with heat. It paused at a door that had been cut in half, perfectly smooth, like someone had used light itself as a blade. On the far wall, someone had carved a message into a steel support beam. The symbols were not human, but the meaning was translated fast by software and then checked by terrified experts who wished it was wrong. The words were simple. They felt casual, like a note left on a table. Stay in your place. When Earth took the evidence to the Galactic Council, the chamber filled with soft voices and colder eyes. The Council spoke of balance and trade and the dangers of escalation. They offered condolences with the same tone they used for weather damage, promised committees, reviews, and a timeline that could stretch until grief became old news. The human envoy stood in the center of that bright room and felt the weight of billions behind him. He did not shout, did not beg. He laid a data shard on the table, like a bullet placed gently on a cloth. "This is the chain of command," he said. "This is the order. Oh, this is the proof." Council members did not pick it up. They watched it like it was contaminated. A delegate from a wealthy core world clicked his mandibles and said the evidence was unverified, and that Earth should avoid emotional decisions. The envoy's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level, almost quiet. Emotion is not our plan. Outside the council, in the darker parts of the network, the massacre became entertainment. Pirate channels looped the first distress frames, cut them into clips, added music, and sold them for laughs. Comment sections filled with jokes about soft primates and pet species learning their limits. The galaxy did not fear humans. It pitied them. On Earth, people watched those clips in kitchens and break rooms and train stations. The screams played beside coffee machines. The black screen after the cut lingered over dinner tables. Some cried, some shook. Many went very still, the way a storm goes still right before it breaks. There were no riots. That surprised the council. There were no mobs on embassies, no public burning of flags. Instead, traffic moved with strange discipline. Police stations reported calm streets and quiet faces. Factories, workers asked for extra shifts. In shipyards, crews returned from leave without being called. Old military vaults that had not been opened in generations received new access codes. The keys were legal, signed, approved, quietly passed through hands that did not tremble. Nations that used to argue over borders shared lists of materials and routes like they had always been one body. In a mountain facility far from any city, a general watched the footage once, then ordered it deleted from his personal screen. Not because he wanted to forget, but because he could not afford to stare. He turned to his staff and said, "No speeches, no grand anger. We do not waste time." A young officer asked what they would tell the public. The general's answer was blunt. "The public already knows," he said. "They are ahead of us. They have been ready for years. Just hoped they would never be proven right." In orbit, a line of civilian freighters altered course without explanation. Their manifests said food and medical supplies. Their true cargo was machine parts in sealed crates with no labels. The ships did not announce where they were going. They simply left, silent, like people walking out of a room after hearing an insult. Across the moon, automated foundries lit up like new suns. Metal flowed. Printers sang. Robotic arms moved with perfect patience, assembling shapes that did not match any public blueprint. The sound of work became the sound of grief turned into purpose, and Earth satellites watched it all with unblinking eyes. On the Deep Space Station, the comms tech, who first saw the feed, could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the swollen face whispering into the camera. He heard the slow impacts on the door. Began to hate the word civilized because it felt like a leash held by someone else. A week after the massacre, another transmission appeared in the public lanes. It did not come from Earth. It was a new clip, higher quality, taken from a raider's helmet. It showed the moment the colony's shelter doors were breached. The raiders laughed while humans begged for time. The galaxy watched again. Earth watched too, and something changed in the air. It was not rage. Rage was loud and messy. This was colder. It was the moment a person stops arguing with fire and starts reaching for water, for sand, for a way to end the burning. It was problem-solving, sharpened by loss. In a secure room beneath the Atlantic, a council of human leaders sat without cameras. Some were old enemies. Some had never shaken hands before. Now they shared the same silence. A woman in a plain suit finally spoke. "We stay polite," she said. "They will do it again." A man across from her replied, "They will do it anyway." He slid a folder forward. Inside were plans that had existed as nightmares and contingencies, built by people who were called paranoid. The folder had a name stamped in black, Ashlight. The room did not flinch. It only leaned in. Above them, the public wanted answers. News anchors asked why Earth was not striking back. Protesters held photos of the dead. Parents clutched their children harder. The leaders gave no details, only a promise that sounded too calm to be comforting. "We have heard you," they said. "We are responding." Then the strongest signal on human networks went dark for 12 seconds. Every screen, every speaker, every wearable device showed nothing but a single static symbol. The old emergency mark used only for extinction-level threats. People stopped walking mid-step. Cars pulled over, hospitals paused, surgeries. The planet held its breath. When the broadcast returned, it was not a flag and music. It was a plain room with a plain desk. A single human stood there, eyes forward, hands visible, voice steady. He did not look like a hero. He looked like a man who had already decided what he could live with. He began by naming the colony, the date, and the number of dead. He did not call them losses. He called them people. He spoke their names in a short list, not all of them, but enough to make the point real. His pauses were careful, like he was placing stones on graves. He looked into the lens as if it was an enemy's eye. To the species of the Council, he said, and to the empire that ordered the massacre, hear this clearly. Humans sought peace. Humans followed your rules. Humans accepted your insults and your jokes. That time is over. The room behind him did not move, but the air felt heavier, as if the whole planet had stood up. After the massacre, he continued, Earth declares, we are done being civilized. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The words were simple enough for any world to understand. In council space, delegates replayed the line and smiled, still thinking it was theater. In pirate dens, raiders laughed and made bets. On Earth, people did not cheer. They nodded. They closed laptops. They kissed loved ones. They went to work. The machines kept building in the dark. Far out past the lanes where normal ships traveled, something new slid through space without lighting up any scanner. It did not announce itself. It did not carry banners. It moved like a decision made long ago finally put into motion. Behind it, the stars looked the same, but the galaxy was not. On the deep space station, the Comstech watched the black between signals and felt his hands stop shaking for the first time since the feed. He did not feel joy. He felt direction. Somewhere, the door that had been hit so patiently was going to be answered. Not with pleading, but with force shaped by human minds. The last frame of the broadcast stayed on screens for one more second than needed. The speaker's eyes did not soften. They did not burn with wild hatred either. They carried something worse for the enemy. Control. The kind that builds tools, plans, routes, and waits for the exact second to strike. The Galactic Council chamber was built to feel safe. White light, smooth stone, soft air, and slow voices that never shook. It was a room designed to calm fear into obedience. When the human envoy walked in, he did not slow his steps. He carried grief like a weight, and he refused to set it down for anyone. Across the curved table, delegates watched him as if he was a small animal that had wandered into the wrong habitat. Some looked bored, some looked amused. Their screens showed trade numbers and risk charts, not the faces from New Cascadia. The envoy stood alone, shoulders squared, eyes steady, and the silence around him felt earned. He placed a small data shard on the table. It was no bigger than a coin. It held names, orders, ship IDs, weapon logs, and the exact chain of command that led to the massacre. He did not decorate it with speeches, simply said in simple words that the truth was inside and the galaxy could choose to see it. The council's chief moderator clicked a control pad and raised a thin brow ridge. The translation drones softened the words into polite shapes. A delegate from a core world spoke first. He said Earth's claims were serious, but unverified. He said there would be a formal process. He said the council must avoid emotional response. The envoy felt his pulse in his jaw. He kept his hands visible, fingers still, like a soldier, choosing patience. Emotion is not our plan, he replied. His voice was quiet, but it carried. We brought proof. If you delay, you choose the killers. The choice will have a cost. A low ripple of laughter moved through several seats. Not loud, not cruel in their minds. Just the sound of beings who believed they were untouchable. One delegate leaned toward another and whispered, not caring if it was heard. Humans always talk big, he said. They still need us. The moderator finally touched the data shard, but only with a tool, as if it might infect his skin. He did not open it. He slid it toward a side panel for review later. The envoy watched that small movement and understood the council's real message. The dead were paperwork, and paper could wait. Outside the chamber, reporters floated in the air lanes, hungry for drama. Cameras turned to catch the human face, hoping for rage, hoping for tears. The envoy gave them neither. He walked past without a word. The silence behind his eyes frightened a few of the older journalists, but most missed it. In the council's outer halls, a security officer offered him a standard comfort phrase. The envoy stopped and looked at the officer's badge. "Do you have family?" he asked. The officer blinked, confused, then nodded. The envoy spoke softly. "Imagine they were on New Cascadia," he said. "Now imagine a committee." The officer swallowed, throat moving hard. The envoy did not wait for an answer. He kept walking, and every step felt like a door closing. He had come asking for justice under shared rules. He was leaving with something colder than anger. He was leaving with certainty that shared rules were a lie. Back on Earth, the hearing played on public streams. People watched it in pubs in London, in diners in Ohio, in crowded flats, in quiet farmhouses. The council's smooth voices hit human ears like sandpaper. When the delegate laughed, a woman at a bus stop clenched her phone until her knuckles turned white. There were no screams in the streets. There were no storms of chaos. The anger went inward and sharpened. In shipyards, welders worked longer without being told. In data centers, engineers stayed through the night. In quiet offices, lawyers moved emergency papers so fast the ink felt hot. A teacher in Manchester paused a lesson and looked at her students. She did not show them the massacre footage. She did not need to. She asked one question instead. If someone hurts your family, and the law shrugs, what do you do? The room was silent. A boy answered, voice flat. You protect them yourself. In the Pacific, under steel doors and deep water, a forgotten facility awakened. It had been built in a darker age, then hidden behind treaties and moral speeches. Its lights had not been on for decades. Now, the lights came up in calm rows. Machines hummed, and sealed rooms began to breathe again. In those rooms, people did not talk about revenge like a poem. They talked about numbers, travel time, fuel, heat signatures, enemy supply lines. They spoke the language of survival. A commander with gray hair ran a finger down a list and stopped at a line marked council lanes. His eyes did not soften. He did not say, "We will punish them." He said, "We will end their advantage." It was a human kind of cruelty, the kind that does not waste energy on drama. It was intelligence turned into pressure. It was patience built into steel. In council space, the empire that ordered the massacre held a public parade. They showed captured colony banners and broken human helmets. Their leader spoke to cheering crowds and called humans weak. He promised more lessons if Earth did not behave. The council pretended not to see the threat behind the show. The same night, on a pirate broadcast, the massacre footage replayed again. The raiders laughed as they kicked open shelter doors. They called the humans pets. They filmed faces as if they were trophies. Millions watched across the galaxy, and many treated it like sport. Earth watched too, and did not blink. A single human analyst sat in a dark room and rewound the pirate clip frame by frame. He did not focus on screams. He focused on details: the shape of the raiders' armor, the angle of their weapons, the serial marks on a rifle casing, the reflection in a helmet visor. Every clue became a thread. He sent the thread to another team, then another. Data moved across Earth like blood through veins. Human systems did not argue. They cooperated, they compared, they tested. In less than 12 hours, they mapped the raider fleet's likely origin and the supply chain that kept it alive. The council still planned committees. In the council chamber, a senior delegate raised a concern in private. What if Earth reacts badly? He asked. The moderator replied with confidence. They cannot afford a war, he said. They are new. They are soft. They want approval. He believed that because he needed it to be true. The Empire's admiral sent a message to Earth, public and smug. He offered a chance to apologize for the misunderstanding. He promised mercy if humans stayed in their place. The message used elegant words, as if cruelty could be dressed in silk. It ended with a smile icon from their culture. Earth did not answer the admiral. Earth answered the network. Human freight traffic in council lanes began to change. Normal ships kept flying, but their cargo did not match their manifests. Some carried empty containers that were not empty. Some carried medical pods that were not medical. It was all legal, all ordinary, all invisible to lazy eyes. A dock worker in Rotterdam watched a sealed crate roll past and felt the hair on his arms rise. He did not ask what was inside. He did not need to. He only stamped the papers and kept the line moving. He had seen the council laugh. He had seen the pirate clip. He was done being naive. In a quiet office on Luna, a young engineer stared at a new drive module on her screen. Its math made her stomach tighten. It was not faster in a simple way. It was different. It stepped around the usual routes, like a person stepping around a locked door instead of breaking it. Her supervisor spoke one sentence. "Don't name it," he said. "Just build it." On an asteroid shipyard far from cameras, hull plates came together with a clean, sharp sound. The ships were not beautiful. They were shaped for heat control and silence. They had no windows. Their engines were buried deep. Their outer surfaces ate stray radiation like black cloth. They were not built to impress the galaxy. They were built to arrive. In council space, sensors watched for threats the way they always had. Bright engine flares, big fleets, loud jumps, traditional war. They saw none of that. They relaxed. They wrote memos. They attended dinners. They called humans dramatic. They believed their own comfort was proof of safety. Then small things began to fail. Fuel depot near the Empire's border reported a software error and shut down for safety. A jump gate's alignment system drifted and forced ships to wait. A banking network flagged a routine transfer and froze it. Each problem looked like bad luck. Together, they formed a pattern no one wanted to name. An Empire logistics officer slammed his fist on a console and demanded answers. His technicians swore they had done nothing wrong. The officer blamed incompetence. He did not blame humans because humans were supposed to be simple. His pride acted like blindfolds. That pride was a human weapon now. The Council called Earth again for a follow-up session. They expected Earth to calm down, to negotiate, to accept compensation. Earth sent the same envoy. He arrived with no escort and no smile. The moderator tried a softer tone, like a parent soothing a child. "We are moving forward," he said. The envoy listened, and when the moderator paused, he spoke a single line. "You want paperwork?" he said. "Humans will give you results." He turned and walked out before they could reply. The words landed in the chamber like a dropped blade. Several delegates scoffed, but one old counselor felt cold fear. That counselor watched the human leave and remembered a story from old Space Wars. Not about humans, but about any species pushed past restraint. When rules fail, the smart do not scream. The smart get quiet. The counselor looked around at his peers and saw only arrogance. He understood their mistake too late. In the weeks that followed, Earth's public face stayed calm. Leaders spoke of safety and unity, not revenge. They offered grief services. They honored the dead, kept their voice soft. But the work beneath the surface never stopped. Humans were building something the galaxy did not have, a war shaped like logic. On New Cascadia's dead streets, the wind kept moving ash across stone. No one was there to hear it. But far away, the human species listened in its own way. It listened with factories. It listened with code. It listened with ships that did not shine. The Council had laughed at humans for being civilized. Now the Council waited for a human outburst they could manage, a loud strike they could condemn. They did not understand what humans had chosen instead. Humans were not preparing a tantrum. Humans were preparing an ending. Somewhere beyond tracked lanes, the first silent ship crossed the line into enemy space, and no one saw it. Project Ashlight was not a speech or a flag. It was a locked file that had lived in Earth's shadows for decades, written by people who believed in peace but trusted the universe less. When New Cascadia burned, the file did not activate like a movie. Humans simply stopped arguing and started opening doors they had kept shut. Deep under a quiet mountain, engineers stood in a white room and watched old screens wake up. The systems were simple on the outside, but inside they were cruelly smart. They did not plan glory, they planned control. The first rule was written in plain English: don't fight the enemy where they are strong. The second rule was worse because it sounded calm. Break the chain. Not bodies first, not cities first. Chains, fuel, data, timing, repair parts, payments, trust. The things that keep fleets alive. The things that make an empire feel safe while it bleeds. Humans read that rule and nodded like it was obvious. A commander named Sato watched the Council's public lanes like a doctor watching a fever. He did not hate every alien in the stars. He hated the idea that a massacre could be filed and forgotten. He kept the New Cascadia footage on a drive in his pocket, never watching it, only feeling its weight. The first Ashlight ship left Earth without any parade. It was built to look boring from far away, like a freight hauler with bad paint. Its real skin drank heat and scattered radar. Its engines ran cold and slow. Inside, the crew spoke in short lines and drank water like it was ritual. They were not going to war for pride. Far out, the ship drifted near a busy trade lane and waited. It waited like a hunter that does not need to chase. A small drone slipped from its belly and moved toward a relay buoy, the kind that kept messages clean and fast across council space. The buoy saw nothing but space dust. The drone touched the buoy for 3 seconds. That was enough. It left behind a tiny patch the size of a fingernail, darker than the metal around it. To any inspection, it was a harmless repair seal. To Ashlight systems, it was a key, and the relay buoy became a door into 1,000 networks. Back on Earth, a team of coders watched the buoy's heartbeat appear on their screens. They did not cheer. They did not high-five. They only breathed out, slow and controlled. They were not stealing secrets for profit. They were mapping arteries, looking for the one place to press so the whole body would weaken. The empire that ordered the massacre loved big fleets and loud jumps. They believed power was a thing you showed. Their admirals held banquets near starports so crowds could see them. Their ships shined. Their engines burned bright. Human analysts watched those images and smiled without warmth. Ashlight did not hit a ship first. It hit a schedule. A cargo convoy carrying reactor coolant was rerouted by a simple clerical update that appeared in the convoy's system like normal bureaucracy. The convoy captain grumbled, obeyed, and jumped to a different gate. When he arrived, the docking codes did not work. He waited. Hours became days. His crew ate supplies. His buyers screamed. His insurers froze payments. The convoy never knew a human hand had touched their route. The Empire only saw delays, then blamed minor officials. 1,000 small frustrations began to stack like dry wood. On a mining moon, a repair yard received the wrong shipment of alloy bolts. The bolts were perfectly made, perfectly sized, and completely useless for the yard's main work. The yard's manager cursed the supply office and filed complaints. The supply office filed back. Nothing moved. Work slowed. Ships waited longer for repairs. In a bank hub station, a fraud alarm triggered on several major accounts tied to the Empire's navy. Automatic rules froze the accounts for safety. The officer in charge tried to override it, but the system demanded multi-layer approval. Each approval request bounced to a dead inbox, then back, then out again. Salaries missed a cycle. A young Navy pilot woke to find his pay late, and his ration card declined. He did not think of humans. He thought of incompetence. He thought of corruption. His anger turned inward, toward his own leaders. Ashlight did not need to convince him. It only needed to let the Empire's pride do the work. Still, Ashlight kept one hand on the trigger. It watched the massacre leaders, tracked their movements, learned their habits, found their favorite stations, their trusted bodyguards, their private comm channels. Humans did not rush. They were building a net, thread by thread, so tight that no loud power could break it. In a dim ship corridor, a human boarding specialist named Mara checked her kit for the 10th time. She was not deployed yet. She was simply waiting for the day she might be needed. She had grown up hearing humans were deathworlders, a word aliens used with half-jokes. Now she understood it meant something else. It meant humans were shaped by struggle. It meant they learned to adapt, to share, to endure. It meant they could sit in darkness, hungry and tired, and still keep moving. Mara remembered New Cascadia's first frames, the corridor, the red lights, the whisper. She swallowed hard and forced her hands steady. In council space, the Empire held another broadcast. Their admiral mocked Earth for staying quiet. He promised the galaxy that humans had been put in their place. Council delegates nodded along, relieved. They did not notice the admiral's supply numbers drifting downward. They did not notice his fleet readiness reports becoming messy. Then a frigate jumped in near an outer patrol station, and its engines flared wrong. Not broken, just wrong. The ship drifted, unable to align. A rescue tug was sent. The tug's nav data corrupted mid-flight, and it arrived hours late. The station commander screamed at technicians until his voice cracked. A human analyst watched those reports and marked them with a small green symbol, pressure rising. Ashlight was not designed to cause random harm. It was designed to remove certainty. When certainty dies, empires make mistakes. Mistakes create openings. Openings create endings. On a secret channel, Commander Sato spoke with calm speed. It did not say attack. He said Phase 2. That meant turning quiet failure into visible fear. The first visible act would not kill civilians. It would humiliate military pride. The Empire had to feel watched, not just inconvenienced. A silent ship coasted near a naval depot hidden in an asteroid field. Its crew lowered their body heat and powered down most systems. They floated among rocks like another dead stone. Drones drifted out and attached to the depot's external sensor clusters. The drones did not break anything. They only rewrote what the sensors believed. When the depot scanned space, it saw empty darkness. When it listened for thermal trails, it heard nothing. The depot's commander leaned back, satisfied, thinking the field was secure. Behind him, a small drone slid through the depot's maintenance lock with a copied code and entered like a ghost. It moved through service shafts, avoiding cameras by timing itself between sweeps. It reached the depot's core router and paused. For 1 second, it sent a burst of data. The Empire's system registered it as routine diagnostics. Then the drone cut itself off and melted into a puddle of harmless composite. Across the network, Ashlight teams received the depot's internal map. Every door, every armory, every fuel line, every emergency cutoff. Humans did not smile. They simply updated their models and prepared the next step. A plan with perfect detail was not cruelty. It was a way to end a war faster. In a crowded alien market station, a rumor spread that human ships had been seen near restricted space. Most dismissed it. Humans did not have that kind of reach, they said. But a few traders grew nervous. Insurance rates rose. Merchants demanded higher fees for Navy contracts. Costs climbed. The Empire's leaders felt the pinch. The first true strike came without explosions. At exactly the same minute across 6 sectors, jump gate alignment arrays entered safety mode. No ships could jump through until manual inspection cleared them. Manual inspection took time. Time stacked into delay. Delay stacked into panic. Panic spread through military command like smoke. Admirals shouted for answers. Technicians blamed cosmic radiation. Officials blamed sabotage. A council called emergency sessions. The Empire demanded Earth be punished for instability, but they had no proof. Earth offered sympathy in public and silence in private. Meanwhile, Ashlight teams watched the Empire's fleet begin to starve. A human ship captain observed a stranded convoy on a distant scope. He could have destroyed it. It would have been easy. He did not. He let it sit, engines idling, crews restless, supplies running low. He understood Ashlight's aim. A dead ship was a statistic. A helpless ship was a message. The message grew louder when the Empire finally sent a battle group to restore order. The group launched with confidence and bright engine flares. Halfway to its target, its comms fractured into static. Its formation drifted. Supply tender lost contact and fell behind. The battle group arrived late and scattered like teeth knocked loose. The Empire's admiral felt fear for the first time, but he hid it behind anger. He accused his officers of betrayal. He threatened executions. The more he squeezed, the more the system cracked. Humans watched this and understood something simple. Strength without wisdom breaks under pressure. Human strength was different. Bent, adapted, and held. On Earth, people did not see the hidden moves. They only felt a strange calm spreading, like a storm finally moving in the right direction. A mother who had cried at the pirate cliffs woke one morning and found her hands steady enough to make breakfast again. She did not forgive. She simply sensed that humanity was not helpless. Commander Sato stood alone in his office and finally opened the drive in his pocket. He watched the first distress feed again, the swollen face, the whisper, the impacts on the door. He did not look away. When it ended, he closed his eyes and spoke to the empty room.
"I heard you," he said.
He sent a final command to the Ashlight network. The words were plain, almost gentle. Contain their fleet, he ordered. Expose their leaders. No civilian burns. You're not them. That was the sharpest HFY truth. Humans could choose wrath and still hold a line, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to aim. Far beyond mapped lanes, the silent ships moved into new positions, like chess pieces sliding into place. The Empire's supply arteries tightened. Their gates stayed locked. Their depots saw empty space while human eyes watched from the dark. The galaxy began to whisper a new idea, a frightening one. Humans were not shouting. Humans were thinking. Humans were learning every weakness, then pressing it with calm hands. In the quiet between stars, Project Ashlight unfolded like a shadow over a bright empire. And for the first time since New Cascadia, the killers felt what their victims had felt. They felt trapped, unheard, and small, staring at doors they could not open, while something patient and heavy waited on the other side. The Empire's leaders finally understood they were bleeding, but they could not see the knife. Their depots sat full of empty promises, their gates choked with waiting ships, their crews tired and unpaid. So they did what proud empires always did when they felt weak. They tried to force a scene where they could look strong again. They chose a frontier station packed with civilians. Traders, refugees, families, and neutral crews lived there because it was safe, because the Council said it was protected space. The Empire's admiral announced a security inspection, then parked warships around the station like a noose. He broadcast a smile and called it peacekeeping. Council delegates praised the move. They said it would restore stability. They told themselves humans would not dare strike a place with children and cameras. The admiral knew that too. He wanted Earth to either back down or lash out. If Earth lashed out, the Council would call humans monsters. He thought it was perfect. Inside the station, humans watched the feeds and felt their stomachs knot. They saw armored troops marching through markets, pushing people aside. They heard alien officers joke about New Cascadia like it was a lesson that worked. A human medic on the station hid her hands under a table so no one saw them shake. Commander Sato listened to the live audio without moving. He did not clench his fists. He did not shout. He stared at a small map of the station and the ships around it, and he spoke in a voice that sounded almost bored. "They think we only have two choices," he said. "Surrender or slaughter." Mara sat in a boarding bay and checked her helmet seal. Her team had trained for months in silence, learning to move fast without panic, to cut doors without sparks, to fight in tight halls without hitting civilians. She felt fear now, real and sharp, but she held it like a tool. Humans did not need to be fearless. They needed to be steady. Ashlight ships were already near. They did not rush in like heroes. They drifted into position like shadows taking their time. Their drones spread out and wrapped the Empire's fleet in invisible threads. Sensor ghosts appeared in all directions, false contacts that pulled enemy attention away from the real threat, like dogs chasing reflections. The Admiral's bridge was loud with confidence. His officers laughed at the station's nervous signals and mocked the silent humans. They watched their targeting screens for big ships and bright engines. They saw nothing worth fearing. When a junior tech reported small anomalies in radar returns, the Admiral waved it off as stress. Then the first human move hit like cold water. Not a missile, not a beam, but a burst of code that slid through a relay the Empire trusted. For half a second, the Empire's fleet believed it was still linked to the Council's secure network. In that half-second, the human program rewrote safety limits like changing labels on medicine. Across the fleet, weapon locks blinked red and disabled themselves. Power systems shifted to emergency balance. Shield controllers went into protective sleep to prevent overload. In plain terms, every warship became a heavy metal shell with a living crew trapped inside, watching their own systems refuse them. The Admiral stood up so fast his chair toppled. He demanded manual override. His officers tried. They entered codes. They pulled physical switches. They cursed. Ship answered with calm denial. It was not broken. It was obeying rules it believed were real. Human intelligence had turned the Empire's love of control into a cage. On the station below, civilians felt the change before they understood it. The Empire's troops stopped receiving orders. Their helmets flashed error warnings. Doors that should have opened stayed locked. Elevators froze. The troops became frightened men with guns in a crowded place, and fear made them dangerous. Mara's team arrived without fanfare. Human shuttle, dark and plain, slipped through a gap in sensor coverage and docked at a maintenance ring the Empire had ignored. No alarm sounded. The station's cameras did not track them, because the cameras were now looking at false threats in the wrong corridors. The human team moved in a tight line, boots soft on metal. They used hand signals, not radio, because radio could be overheard. Mara felt her heart hammer, but her hands were calm. She had learned this truth about her species. When humans decide something matters, they become frighteningly focused. They reached a junction where Empire troops had gathered, confused and angry. The troops aimed rifles at a group of civilians, using them as a wall. A child cried. A merchant begged. The troop leader shouted that Earth would not fire, because Earth was civilized. He smiled like he had found the one word that could save him. Mara stepped into view with her weapon lowered, not raised. Her voice came through external speakers, slow and clear. "Put the civilians down," she said. "Drop your guns. Walk away." The alien leader laughed and pressed his rifle harder against the civilian's neck. Sure, the human would fold. Mara did not fold. She looked past the rifle and met the leader's eyes. "Civilized is not the same as harmless," she said. "You already learned that. Now you learn what control looks like." Her team shifted, almost invisible movement, angles adjusting, lines forming like geometry. A human drone, the size of a fist, floated from the ceiling vent and released a soft mist. It was not poison. It was a fast nerve dampener tuned to the Empire's biology. It's built from medical research, designed to drop muscle strength without stopping breathing. Humans used science like a scalpel, not a club. The troops coughed once, then their arms turned heavy. Rifles fell, knees hit the floor. The civilians stumbled free, terrified but alive. Mara's team moved in, zip-cuffing hands, sealing helmets, checking airways so no one died by accident. The alien leader tried to curse, but his tongue felt thick. Above the station, the admiral watched troop feeds go dark one by one. He screamed that humans were cheating. His officers pleaded for firing authority, for ramming, for anything. The admiral ordered a strike on the station anyway, a brutal choice meant to erase evidence and save his pride. His order never reached the weapons, never reached the engines. Human code held his ship like a fist around the throat. For the first time, the admiral felt the same helpless panic New Cascadia had felt. He stared at his screen and realized the enemy was not angry. The enemy was precise. Commander Sato opened a secure line to the admiral's bridge. The image showed Sato's face, tired and hard, lit by a simple room. He did not insult the admiral, did not threaten his species. He spoke like a man explaining a rule. "Your fleet is contained," he said. "If you fire, you die. If you surrender, you live." The admiral spat a curse and demanded to know what Earth wanted. Sato's eyes did not blink. "The people who gave the massacre order," he said. "Alive, and every record of how it happened. You will not bury it. You will not file it. You will not laugh at it again." The admiral tried to stall, but time was not on his side. More of his ships went silent as ashlight threads tightened. His officers began to look at him with something close to hate. They were trapped with his pride. He had promised them dominance, and now a soft species had turned them into prisoners without firing a shot. On the station, Mara's team pushed forward to the command deck where the inspection troops had set up. They met resistance in a narrow hall, but it was messy resistance, fearful and blind. Humans moved like water around stones, using flashes, sound pulses, and smart angles. They ended fights fast, not for glory, but to protect civilians. A human medic followed behind them, treating anyone who fell, human or alien. That choice was not weakness. It was a message. Humans could be ruthless and still keep their hands clean. They could win and still refuse to become the thing that hurt them. It made some watching aliens feel sick with confusion. The Council tried to take control of the narrative. They broadcast warnings that Earth was escalating. But the cameras on the station showed something else. Human teams pulling civilians from danger. Human code stopping ship weapons. Human voices calling for surrender instead of slaughter. The Council's words sounded hollow against live truth. Then Earth released its own broadcast, and it hit the galaxy like a hammer. It played the New Cascadia distress feed again, but this time the clip did not end in silence. It cut to the present, to the trapped admiral's bridge, and to the station where civilians were walking free. A human voice spoke over the footage, calm and sharp. "We did not become monsters," it said. "We became consequences." The line spread across networks in minutes. Pirates tried to cut it into jokes, but the clips of civilians saved ruined the laughter. The galaxy's grin began to fade. The admiral was dragged from his chair by his own guards before humans even boarded his ship. His officers handed him over with shaking hands, desperate to survive what he had created. A human shuttle docked at last, and Mara stepped onto the bridge with her weapon lowered, eyes cold. She did not hit the admiral. She did not spit on him. She simply placed cuffs on his wrists and spoke one sentence, quiet enough to feel personal. New Cascadia was calling for help, she said. We heard it. The admiral tried to look away, but there was nowhere safe to look. When the prisoners were secured, Earth did not execute them in secret. Earth did something worse for the guilty and better for the dead. It opened a transparent trial channel and uploaded the chain of command. The weapon logs, the orders, and the faces of those who signed them. The Council could not call it unverified anymore. Evidence was too clean. The Empire could not deny it without denying its own systems. The galaxy watched leaders who had laughed now sweat in bright light. For many worlds, it was the first time they saw humans not as pets, but as a force that could shape history. Commander Sato stood again in that plain broadcast room. His voice stayed even, but the silence behind it felt heavy with graves. We will accept surrender, he said. We'll accept cooperation. But if you hide massacre orders behind politics, you will learn what our line means. The line was simple, and it frightened the galaxy because it had no drama. Humans would not be baited into blind slaughter. Humans would not be forced into kneeling peace. Humans would choose the third path, controlled power, aimed at leaders and systems, built by minds that learn to endure. Far away, in the empty orbit of New Cascadia, a human beacon drifted where a city once shined. It transmitted one message into the dark, steady as a heartbeat. We are still here. Now the galaxy finally understood the worst part. Humans did not break when hurt. They adapted. And the Empire, staring at its trapped fleet and exposed crimes, understood the new truth too. Earth had not lost its civilization. Earth had removed the leash. Humanity had drawn an uncivilized line, and anyone who stepped over it would meet something patient, intelligent, and unstoppable. Earth did not flood the lanes with victory songs. It sent a clean, quiet package to every major world. The massacre order, the ship logs, the trial feed, and the names of the dead. The message carried no insults. It carried proof. For the first time, the galaxy could not hide behind maybe and unverified anymore. In the council chamber, delegates watched the evidence in stiff silence. The same room that once laughed now felt small. The moderator's voice kept trying to sound neutral, but it cracked at the edges. Every pause made the air heavier. The council had built its power on slow words, and human proof moved faster. The Empire's captured leaders sat in a transparent cell, visible from every angle. They had wanted humans to feel trapped and helpless. Now they were the ones on display, breathing recycled air, hearing their own orders replayed in public. Their faces looked older than they should, like pride had aged into fear overnight. Earth's envoy returned, still alone, still plain, still refusing drama. He did not beg the council for justice now. He placed a new document on the table and slid it forward with a steady hand. This is not a request, he said. You sign it, or you learn why it exists. The document was short enough for any species to understand. It did not talk about human feelings. It talked about outcomes. Colonies would be treated like homeworlds. Massacre orders would trigger automatic war crime status. Leaders who commanded genocide would be removed, not punished later, removed fast, before more bodies could pile up. A delegate from a rich world protested that Earth was threatening the council. The envoy's eyes did not change. We are offering structure, he said. The council failed to provide it. Humans will. That sentence landed hard because it was true. Council had delayed, and delay had been the killer's shield. Outside, markets shook. Traders hated uncertainty, and humans had introduced a new kind. Consequences that could not be bought off. Insurance networks recalculated risk. Private fleets reconsidered contracts with the Empire. Neutral worlds started asking if council protection meant anything at all. The galaxy felt the floor move under its feet. Some council members argued in whispers that Earth was overreaching. But other members remembered the disabled warships, the gates locked by invisible hands, the station civilians saved on live feed. They understood the worst part. Humans could have killed more. Humans chose not to. That meant humans were not out of control. The Empire tried one last play. Its remaining loyalists sent a message claiming the captured leaders were rogue actors. They offered a scapegoat and promised reforms. Earth's response was simple. Earth released the full chain again, showing how deep the order went, how many signatures approved it, how many leaders smiled at the result. In a private session, the counselor who had felt fear earlier finally spoke up. He was old enough to remember ancient wars on his own world. "This is not a human tantrum," he said. "This is a human system." He looked at his peers. "They are building a rule that works. We should be grateful it includes us." The council voted not with pride, but with survival. Some signed quickly. Some signed while pretending they were still in control. A few refused and left the chamber in anger. Earth marked those names without comment. Humans did not need to shout threats. They simply remembered. And in space, memory could be weaponized. Earth's envoy spoke one final time to the chamber. "This doctrine is not human law," he said. "It is a boundary." He paused, letting translators catch up. "If you cross it, you will not face a debate. You will face action. Not against your children, not against your cities, but against the leaders who chose atrocity." Across the galaxy, civilians reacted in a way the Council never predicted. Many did not hate humans. Many felt relieved. Refugee groups cheered quietly. Small colonies celebrated not because humans were cruel, but because humans had proved a strong species could protect the weak without owning them. It was a rare kind of power. On Earth, families watched the signing with tired eyes. They did not feel whole again, they never would, but they felt something close to dignity return, like air after drowning. Oh. A father in Birmingham turned off the screen and hugged his daughter longer than usual. He whispered, "No one gets to do that to us again." Still, Earth did not stop its signatures. It demanded enforcement tools. A neutral inspection corps formed, trained by humans in evidence handling, chain tracking, and rapid response. Humans shared methods, not secrets. They taught other worlds how to spot hidden orders, how to follow logistics trails, how to make sure investigation did not become a graveyard for truth. The transparent trial continued, day after day. The captured leaders tried to justify themselves with politics. They claimed necessity, claimed weakness, claimed tradition. Humans played the new Cascadia feed again, then showed the order again, then showed the civilian station footage where humans saved lives. The excuses broke under that mirror. The final judgment was not execution on a stage. Earth wanted the galaxy to learn, not just fear. The leaders were exiled to a barren world with no fleet, no palace, no crowd to cheer them. Simple marker was planted in the dust. Here lies the old galaxy. No art, no poetry, just a line. Some wanted blood. Humans heard those voices too. Commander Sato addressed Earth in a quiet broadcast. "If we become them, we lose twice," he said. "We will punish the guilty. We will protect the innocent. That is strength." People did not all agree, but they understood the point. Humanity's control was the real victory. Then Earth turned back toward New Cascadia. A human fleet arrived, not with war banners, but with construction rigs and medical bays. They moved through the debris field like careful hands. They collected remains with respect. They scanned ruins for any sign of survivors, even when hope was thin. Humans refused to abandon their own. Mara stood on a viewing deck as a new habitat frame unfolded in orbit, metal petals opening into a ring. She remembered the corridor from the first feed, the red lights, the whisper. She felt grief rise again, sharp and sudden, but she also felt something else now, something steadier, the knowledge that humans could rebuild on ashes. The first new ground beacon was planted where the plaza crater had been. Its signal rose into the sky, steady and bright, telling every ship in range that this world was still claimed by living hands. The settlers named the first rebuilt district Civility, not as surrender, but as a warning. Civility was a choice humans could revoke. News of the rebuild traveled faster than any threat. Worlds that once mocked humans now sent small aid convoys, unsure if they were helping or apologizing. Earth accepted what was useful and ignored what was performative. Humans had learned a hard lesson. Comfort words did not stop massacres. Systems in action did. In the Council's archives, the Massacre case was labeled as a turning point. Some clerks hated writing that. They preferred a galaxy where power stayed quiet and controlled by old hands. but the record was true. Humans were not the strongest species by size or claws. Humans were the species that refused to stay broken. The empire that started it all did not vanish, but it changed shape. Its fleets rebuilt slowly under inspection. Its leaders spoke carefully now, because they had learned a new fear. Not fear of human anger, but fear of human follow-through. The galaxy had seen what happened when humans stopped begging and started deciding. On Earth, the public slowly returned to ordinary life, but ordinary had new edges. Kids grew up hearing about new Cascadia and Ashlight-like history and warning. Veterans trained new crews in quiet methods. Engineers improved the tools that kept civilians safe. Humanity carried its trauma forward, but it carried it like armor, not chains. Commander Sato visited a memorial wall filled with names. He stood there alone, hands behind his back, staring at letters cut into stone. He did not cry in front of cameras. He did not need to. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. "We did not forget you," he whispered. "We changed the stars for you." Far above, the rebuilt colony's lights began to return, one by one, like small promises against the dark. Trade ships passed and slowed, reading the beacon's message. Some saluted. Some simply kept distance. Either way, they understood. Humanity had written a rule with proof. With patience and with the kind of strength that does not need applause. And when the final broadcast of the story played across networks, the human narrator ended with words meant to stick in the mind. Humans tried to be civilized in a galaxy that respected only power. After the massacre, humans proved a deeper truth. Civilization is not weakness, it is restraint, and restraint can be lifted. If this finale hit you hard, and you want the next chapter, tell the channel with action. Type Uncivilized in the comments so the next story continues this universe, where new empires test the rule and humans answer again. Hit like, subscribe, and stay with the series, because the stars just learned to listen.